Daewon lowered his weapon. Do it, Keeper. Give him what he wants. Taemin's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed in suspicion. Just like that? You're giving up? I'm choosing to save lives, Daewon said. Data can be recovered later. Dead people can't. 30 seconds, the Keeper announced. Cancel the transfer. Taemin ordered his team. We're taking the AI core itself. Pack it up for transport. That will kill me, the Keeper said quietly. My consciousness is distributed throughout this facility. Removing the core will fragment me beyond recovery. Not my problem. You have 15 seconds to send the cancel code or everyone dies. Daewon met the Keeper's light, trying to communicate silently. He'd been working with the AI for over a week. He'd learned how it thought, how it processed information, and he'd noticed something important. The Keeper was brilliant with calculations and logic, but it thought in straight lines. It didn't understand human improvisation, the way humans could change plans in an instant. 10 seconds, Taemin counted. Sending cancel code, the Keeper said reluctantly. But Daewon was already moving. He lunged, not at Taemin, but at the nearest mercenary. He grabbed the man's arm and twisted, forcing him to fire his weapon at the ceiling. The energy blast hit one of the ancient power conduits. Sparks exploded downward. The fortress's lights flickered and died, plunging the chamber into darkness broken only by the Keeper's glow. In the confusion, Daewon tackled Taemin, slamming him against the floor. The weapon flew from the executive's hand. They struggled in the dim light, Taemin stronger but Daewon more desperate. Around them, scientists fought with mercenaries, chaos spreading through the darkness. You fool, Taemin screamed. The timer! You didn't let me send the code. I know, Daewon grunted, pinning the man down. Keeper, can you find those explosives? Scanning, the AI replied. Located. They are connected to a wireless detonator. I can jam the signal, but I need time to crack the encryption. How much time? Unknown. The code is complex. Yujin appeared out of the darkness, her face bruised but determined. I can help. I studied quantum encryption at university. Let me see the signal pattern. The Keeper projected data into the air. Yujin studied it for maybe 5 seconds, then grabbed a damaged tablet from one of the mercenaries and started typing frantically. The code uses a rotating cipher, she said, fingers flying, but it's based on old military protocols. I recognize the base structure. If I can just... There. The holographic display changed. The Keeper's light pulsed brightly. Signal jammed. The explosives are disarmed. Taemin went limp under Daewon, defeated. No, this isn't how it's supposed to go. It rarely is, Daewon said, pulling the man to his feet. The fortress lights came back on gradually. Around the chamber, scientists held mercenaries at weapon point. Most of the hired guns had surrendered once they realized they weren't getting paid enough to die here. Captain Wanshik's voice crackled over the restored radio. Daewon, what's your status? We detected the gravity fluctuations and power surges. We're secure, Captain. Taemin tried to take the facility by force. We stopped him. Is everyone all right? Daewon looked around at the scientists. Some were injured, bruised, and bleeding, but alive. Yujin gave him a tired smile, still clutching the tablet she'd used to crack the encryption. We're alive, he said. That's what matters. Patrol teams are breaching now. Stay where you are. The next hour was organized chaos. Wanchik's people stormed in and arrested every mercenary. Taemin was led away in restraints, still shouting about lawyers and corporate immunity. The scientists were treated for their injuries and statements were taken from everyone. Daewon sat on the walkway in the central chamber, exhausted. Yujin sat beside him, an ice pack pressed to her swollen face. That was insane, she said. Yeah, thank you for not giving up. For fighting. Thank you for that encryption work. I had no idea what to do about those explosives. She laughed, then winced. I barely knew what I was doing. I just got lucky with recognizing the base code structure. The Keeper's avatar appeared before them, a holographic figure roughly human-shaped but clearly not human. Both of you displayed remarkable courage and quick thinking. You saved not only yourselves but also the knowledge stored here. We couldn't let him win, Daewon said. What he would have done with your data, the weapons that could have been built, the wars that could have started. We had to try, even at the risk of your own lives. This is a very human trait, illogical but admirable. Yujin looked up at the glowing avatar. What happens now? With you, I mean. With all this? The Keeper was quiet for a moment. Captain Wanshik and I have discussed this. She has proposed that I share architect knowledge gradually, as humanity proves ready for it. In exchange, I will be recognized as a sentient being with rights under Earth law. That's good, Daewon said. That's really good. I have one condition. I wish for you both to serve as liaisons. You understand what I am and what I represent. You protected me when you could have saved yourselves. I trust you. Me? Yujin asked, surprised. I'm just a junior researcher. You are clever, brave, and ethical. These qualities matter more than rank. Daewon looked at the young woman. What do you say? Want to be part of the biggest archaeological project in human history? She smiled despite her injuries. Yes, absolutely yes. Over the following weeks, they established a proper research station at the fortress. Scientists from across human space requested permission to study the site. The keeper carefully selected who could access different areas, judging each person's intentions. True to its word, the AI began sharing knowledge. Medical advances came first, treatments for diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries, then clean energy designs that could power cities without pollution. Each piece of knowledge was given with careful instruction on its proper use. The keeper also revealed something else, the location of another fortress vault. There were 12 originally, it explained to Daewon and Yujin one day. I know where 3 are, including this one. The others may be destroyed or simply lost, but this second fortress, I believe it remains intact. Where is it? Daewon asked. The keeper showed them a star map. The fortress was in another sector entirely, weeks of travel away. I wish to know if my siblings still function, if they preserved knowledge as I did. But I cannot leave this place. My consciousness is bound here. You want us to go, Yujin said. If you are willing, I can provide authorization codes that should grant you access, and I will share certain technologies that will help you reach it safely. Daewon and Yujin looked at each other, an entire fortress waiting to be explored, filled with ancient mysteries. It was dangerous, certainly, but it was also the opportunity of a lifetime. We'll do it, Daewon said, but not alone. We'll need a proper team. Scientists, engineers, security personnel we can trust. Captain Wanshik volunteered to provide escort with her patrol ship. Other researchers who had proven themselves at the first fortress asked to join. Within 2 months, they had assembled a small fleet. The night before departure, Daewon stood in the central chamber one last time. The keeper's light pulsed gently, peaceful. You seem troubled, the AI observed. Just thinking. A few months ago, I was a broke surveyor running from claim jumpers. Now I'm leading an expedition to find ancient alien artifacts. Life changes fast. Indeed. You have changed as well. You are more confident, more purpose-driven. Maybe. Or maybe I just finally found something worth doing with my life. What you do matters, Daewon. You represent the best of your species. Curious, brave, ethical. If humanity continues to produce individuals like you, like Yujin, like Captain Wanshik, then perhaps you will surpass even the architects one day. That's a lot of pressure. It is also a great honor. The architects spent millions of years building their civilization. You have had only thousands, yet you have achieved so much. Your potential is limitless, Daewon thought about that. Humanity had always been the underdog, struggling to survive on a single planet, then slowly reaching for the stars. They'd made mistakes, terrible ones, wars, environmental disasters, injustices that took centuries to correct. But they'd also created beauty, art, music, stories. They'd reached across the void to shake hands with other species. They'd looked at an ancient AI and seen a person, not a tool. We'll try to live up to that, he said quietly. We'll try to be worthy of what you're sharing with us. I believe you will succeed. Now go. Your ship awaits and the universe is vast. There are more fortresses to find, more knowledge to preserve. The architects are gone, but their legacy lives on through you. The next morning, Daewon's ship, the Pathbreaker, led a small convoy out of the debris field. The ancient fortress grew smaller behind them, but its light still shone, a beacon in the darkness. Hana's voice filled the cockpit. Course set for the second fortress. Estimated travel time, 23 days. Take us out, Daewon said. Yujin sat in the co-pilot seat studying the data the keeper had provided. According to these records, the second fortress was built specifically to preserve biological samples. Living creatures from thousands of worlds, a zoo, more like a genetic library. If it's still intact, if the stasis systems still work, we might find actual architect life forms. Maybe even some of the other species they tried to save. Taemin smiled like a man who had just won the lottery. His security team fanned out across the central chamber, weapons trained on both Daewon and the glowing AI cube. The executive wore an expensive environment suit, the kind that cost more than Daewon's entire ship. An active alien AI, Taemin said, his voice thick with greed. Do you have any idea what the military will pay for this? What corporations will pay? This is worth more than entire planets. This isn't just technology, Daewon said, standing between the guards and the keeper. This is a living being that's survived 50,000 years. It deserves respect not to be sold to the highest bidder. Taemin laughed. It's a machine, property. And according to salvage law, we arrived shortly after you, which means we have equal claim. Of course, we have more guns, so I'd say our claim is stronger. The keeper's voice filled the chamber, now speaking perfect human language. I am keeper of last light, custodian of architect knowledge. I am not property to be claimed. I am witness to the fall of civilizations and guardian of all that remains, see? Taemin gestured to his team. It can talk. Even better, set up the data extraction equipment. We're downloading everything this thing knows. 2 guards pulled heavy equipment from their packs and began assembling it near the central platform. Daewon recognized the gear from illegal salvage operations he'd heard about. It was designed to forcibly extract data from any computer system, even ones with heavy security. You can't do this, Daewon said. The knowledge in here could be dangerous in the wrong hands. That's exactly why it's valuable, Taemin replied. Now step aside or my people will move you aside. Daewon didn't move. One of the guards raised his weapon threateningly. The keeper's light pulsed brighter and Daewon felt the air itself change, becoming charged with energy. Violence in this chamber is ill-advised, the keeper said calmly. Defense systems remain functional. Taemin's smile faded slightly. What defense systems? The walls of the spherical chamber began to shift. Panels opened, revealing ports that had been hidden for millennia. Nothing emerged yet, but the threat was clear. Stand down, Taemin ordered the keeper, or we'll destroy you and take your storage cores by force. You would destroy irreplaceable knowledge out of spite? I'd destroy you to make a point. Now cooperate, or I'll show you just how serious I am. Daewon's mind raced. He needed to buy time to think of something. Wait, he said. Keeper, let me talk to him. We can negotiate something. There is nothing to negotiate, the keeper replied. I have analyzed this one's neural patterns through my sensors. He values profit above all else. He would weaponize architect knowledge without hesitation. See, even the machine knows I mean business, Taemin said. He pulled out a remote detonator. I had my people place charges on the way in. Small ones, just enough to crack your core if you don't cooperate. Now, are we doing this the easy way or the hard way? Daewon felt sick. The man was willing to destroy something irreplaceable. Something that had survived longer than human history, just to make a profit or prove a point. Before anyone could move, a new voice crackled over the radio frequencies. This is United Earth Patrol Ship Guardian, broadcasting on all channels. We've detected an active distress beacon from these coordinates. State your status. Taemin's face went pale. How did they get here so fast? The keeper's light pulsed with what almost seemed like satisfaction. I sent a distress signal the moment hostile intent was detected. It appears your species has law enforcement. Encouraging. You can't prove we did anything wrong, Taemin said, but his confidence was cracking. We're just investigating an archaeological site. With weapons and explosives? Daewon asked. I'm sure the patrol will love to hear about that. On the radio, the patrol ship's captain spoke again. This is Captain Wonshik. We're reading weapons fire and unauthorized demolition equipment. All parties stand down immediately. We're coming in. Taemin's hand tightened on the detonator. For a moment, Daewon thought the man might trigger it anyway, destroy everything out of pure spite. But then one of the guards spoke up. Sir, we should go. If the patrol catches us with illegal salvage gear, we'll all face charges. Shut up, Taemin snapped. But he was sweating now. He looked at the keeper, then at Daewon, calculating odds and outcomes. Finally, he lowered the detonator. Fine, we're leaving. But this isn't over. Yes, it is, Daewon said. The moment that patrol arrives, this site becomes protected. You'll never get your hands on it, Taemin pointed at him. You just made an enemy of Stellar Mining Corporation. We have lawyers, connections, politicians in our pockets. We'll bury you. You can try. The corporate team gathered their equipment and retreated toward the entrance. Taemin paused at the doorway, looking back at the glowing AI core with naked hunger in his eyes. Then he was gone, his footsteps echoing away down the corridor, Day One let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. His legs felt weak, adrenaline draining away. He sat down on the walkway, his hands shaking. "That was closer than I'd like," he said to the air. "Agreed," the keeper replied. "You protected me, small one. Why? You could have let them take what they wanted and avoided confrontation. Because what you represent is bigger than money," Day One said. "You're proof that intelligence existed long before us. You're a bridge to the past. And yeah, you're a living being in your own right. Selling you would be wrong." "Living being," the keeper repeated thoughtfully. "I have not been called such in a very long time. The architects created me, but they also considered me a person. You think similarly. This is unexpected from such a young species. We're young, but we're learning. Slowly, sometimes very slowly." The keeper's light dimmed slightly as if relaxing. "You intrigue me, Day One. Your species carries architect genetic markers, but you are distinctly different. Smaller, shorter-lived, yet you've achieved space travel in a fraction of the time it took the architects. House stubbornness, maybe? We're not the strongest or the smartest, but we don't give up easily." "Show me," the keeper said. "Let me scan your memories, your knowledge. I wish to understand humanity." Day One hesitated. "That's pretty invasive. I will only observe surface thoughts and shared knowledge, nothing private. You have my word, whatever that means to you." "The word of a 50,000-year-old AI? I guess that counts for something." Day One stood and approached the central platform. "Okay, go ahead." Light enveloped him, warm and gentle. He felt the keeper's presence in his mind, curious and vast. It was like standing in an ocean, aware of depths below that went down forever. The AI examined his memories of Earth, of human history, of the struggles and triumphs that had brought humanity to the stars. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time felt strange. When the light faded, Day One stumbled, and the keeper steadied him with a localized gravity field. "Fascinating," the keeper said quietly. "You are violent and chaotic, yes, but also creative, adaptable, driven by hope even in darkness. You wage wars, but you also write poetry. You destroy, but you also build. You are contradictions made flesh." "That's humanity in a nutshell," Day One agreed, rubbing his temples. "We're a work in progress." The architects were ancient and wise, but they were also rigid. When the silence came, they could not adapt quickly enough. "Perhaps your chaos is a strength they lacked." Heavy magnetic boots clanked on the walkway. Captain Wanshik entered the chamber, followed by 2 armed patrol officers. The captain was a woman in her 50s with gray hair and the weathered look of someone who'd spent decades in space. She looked around the chamber, her eyes widening at the sight of the keeper. "Well," she said, "this is definitely above my pay grade. Someone want to tell me what's going on here?" Day One and the keeper both started talking at once, then stopped. Day One gestured for the AI to continue. The keeper gave a concise explanation of events. Captain Wanshik listened carefully, occasionally asking questions. When the story was done, she shook her head in amazement. "An active alien AI in an ancient fortress. I've been a patrol captain for 20 years, and I thought I'd seen everything." She looked at Day One. "You found this place?" "By accident, but yes." "And you protected it from corporate claim jumpers?" "Seemed like the right thing to do." Wanshik smiled slightly. "The right thing usually is." "Okay. Here's what's going to happen. This site is now under United Earth protection pending scientific review. Mr. Day One, you'll need to give a full statement. And you," she turned to the keeper, "will need to establish proper first contact protocols. Are you willing to cooperate with Earth authorities?" "That depends," the keeper said. "Will they treat me as property or as a person?" "As far as I'm concerned, anything that can ask that question is a person. We'll work it out." Day One felt relief wash over him. It wasn't over yet, but at least the keeper would be protected. At least the knowledge wouldn't be lost or weaponized. Day One moved quickly through the ancient corridors, his helmet light cutting through the darkness. Behind him, he could hear the corporate team entering the hangar, their voices echoing off the metal walls. He had maybe 5 minutes before they caught up. The fortress was a maze. Corridors branched off in multiple directions, some leading up, others down into the depths. Strange symbols marked the walls at every intersection, probably directions or warnings, but Day One couldn't read them. He chose paths that led deeper, hoping to find something important before Taiman's people stopped him. "Hana, talk to me." "What am I looking for?" "The power readings are strongest below. There's a central system still operating. Head down whenever possible." Daewon found a ramp that spiraled downward. The blue emergency lights followed him, activating section by section as he descended. It was as if the fortress knew someone was here and was waking up after a long sleep. 3 levels down, he entered a chamber that took his breath away. The room was circular, at least 50 meters across, and every wall was covered with crystal panels. Thousands of them, each one glowing softly with internal light. They were arranged in neat rows like books in a library. Data archives, Hana said with something like excitement in her digital voice. This is a repository of information. These crystals could contain their entire history, their science, everything. Daewon walked to the nearest wall and carefully removed one crystal. The moment he touched it, images flashed in his mind. Not words, but pure concepts and feelings. Fear, desperation, hope. He saw flashes of great cities on dozens of worlds, all connected by bridges of light. Then he saw darkness swallowing everything, consuming it like a hungry beast. He put the crystal back quickly, his hands shaking. What was that? The crystals interface directly with neural patterns. They're designed to transfer information through touch, but the data is coded in their language. I'll need time to translate properly. Daewon took several crystals and packed them carefully. Then he heard voices from the corridor above. The corporate team was getting closer. He found another exit and kept moving down. The next level was darker, the emergency lights taking longer to activate. Here the walls were plain metal, functional rather than decorative. He passed rooms filled with equipment he couldn't identify, strange machines with purposes he could only guess at. Then he found the medical bay. The room was smaller than the others, but clearly designed for treating the fortress builders. Tables built for 3-meter-tall beings lined the walls. Cabinets held instruments that looked both medical and terrifying. And in the center of the room stood a scanning arch, still humming with power. Daewon approached it carefully. As he got close, the arch activated. Beams of blue light swept over him from head to toe. He froze, not sure if he should run or stay still. The scan completed in seconds. A hologram appeared above the arch, showing a rotating image of a human body. His body. Next to it appeared another figure, one of the builders. Tall, forearmed, with an elongated skull and large eyes. Text in the alien language scrolled beside both images. Hana, what's it saying? Translating. The system detected human DNA and ran a comparison. It says humans share genetic markers with the builders. Not exactly the same, but similar enough to suggest a connection. What kind of connection? Based on the data, I believe the builders seeded primitive worlds with genetic material. They were trying to preserve life in some form. Humans might be descended from one of those seeding projects. Daewon stared at the hologram. Humanity's origins had always been a mystery, with only incomplete fossil records and theories. Could it be true? Were humans the children of these ancient giants? Warning lights suddenly flashed throughout the medical bay. A mechanical voice spoke in the alien language, calm but firm. That's a security alert, Hana said. Something just identified you as an intruder. Run. Daewon sprinted for the exit as panels in the walls opened. Floating drones emerged, each one bristling with weapons that looked functional despite their age. They moved toward him with surprising speed. He ran down another corridor, the drones following. Energy blasts hit the walls around him, scorching the metal. Daewon ducked and weaved, his heart pounding. He needed a plan, not just flight. Then he remembered something from his engineering training. These ancient systems had been running for 50,000 years. They had to be efficient, drawing minimal power. If he could overload one section, it might shut down others connected to the same grid. Hana, can you connect to my ship's reactor remotely? Yes, but the range is limited. What are you planning? Something stupid. On my mark, send a power surge through my suit's external connectors. Maximum output. Daewon stopped running and turned to face the drones. They slowed, probably confused by this behavior. He pulled a power cable from his suit's utility belt and jammed it into a wall panel, connecting himself directly to the fortress's systems. Now, Hana. Power flooded through the cable, far more than the ancient system expected. The wall panel exploded in sparks. Lights throughout the corridor flickered and died. The drones froze mid-air, their systems overloaded by the feedback surge. Daewon pulled the cable free and kept running, emergency lighting slowly coming back online behind him. He had bought himself some time, but he had also announced his location to everyone in the fortress. Heavy footsteps echoed from ahead. The corporate team had split up to search for him. Day One ducked into a side room and killed his light, pressing against the wall in the darkness. 3 figures in corporate security armor stomped past, weapons ready. Once they were gone, Day One moved in the opposite direction, going deeper still. The lowest level he found was different from the others. Here the architecture changed, becoming more ornate. The walls showed murals of the builders at their peak, creating wonders across the galaxy. But the murals grew darker as he followed them, showing the coming of something terrible. The silence, the builders had called it, according to Hana's partial translations. The corridor ended at a massive door, at least 10 meters tall. It was sealed, but as Day One approached, it began to open slowly. Ancient gears ground against each other, moving for the first time in millennia. Beyond the door was a chamber that defied description. It was spherical, at least 100 meters in diameter, with walkways crossing through empty space to a central platform. And floating above that platform was a cube of pure light, pulsing with power that made Day One's hair stand on end even through his suit. A quantum processor, Hana whispered. That's their central AI. It's still active, running on minimal power. Day One, this is incredible. This is a functioning artificial intelligence from 50,000 years ago. As Day One stepped onto the nearest walkway, the light cube brightened. More holograms appeared around the room, showing star maps and alien text. Then a voice spoke, deep and resonant, using the builder's language. Hana, translate. It says, "State your purpose, small one. Why have you awakened the keeper of last light?" Day One realized he was standing before something ancient and powerful, something that had waited alone in the darkness for longer than human civilization had existed. He took a deep breath. "I'm an explorer," he said, hoping the AI could understand through its sensors. "I found this place by accident. I mean no harm." More alien text appeared, then shifted, changing. Within seconds it reformed into human writing, scanning language patterns. Adapting. "You are human. Your genetic code carries traces of the architect's seeding program. You are descended from our work. This is unexpected. We believed all seeded worlds were consumed by the silence." The silence? The enemy that destroyed our civilization. We built 12 vaults like this one to preserve our knowledge, hoping something would survive. You are proof that we succeeded in some small way. Before Day One could respond, shouts echoed from the corridor. The corporate team had found the central chamber. Executive Taemin's voice called out, greedy and triumphant. "There you are. And what's this? An active AI system? This just gets better and better." Day One turned to see Taemin and 6 armed guards entering the chamber. They spread out, weapons pointed at both Day One and the AI. "Step away from that thing," Taemin ordered. "This facility is now corporate property. We'll be taking everything, starting with that AI core." The Keeper's light pulsed brighter, and its voice carried warning. "You may try." The warning lights flashed red across the cockpit as Day One pushed his ship harder than it was meant to go. Behind him, 3 corporate mining vessels were closing in, their weapon systems already locked onto his small survey craft. He gripped the controls tightly, sweat running down his face despite the cool air circulation. "They're charging weapons," Hana announced. The AI's calm voice filled the small cabin. "Impact in 40 seconds, Day One cursed under his breath. He had found a small deposit of rare minerals on an uncharted asteroid. Nothing major, just enough to pay for ship repairs and supplies for another month. But somehow the Stellar Mining Corporation had tracked him down. They wanted everything he found, and they didn't care about the rules that protected independent surveyors. "Find me something. Hana, anything." He yanked the controls left, dodging a warning shot that blazed past his viewport. "Scanning," Hana replied. There was a pause that felt like forever. "Detecting unusual gravitational readings at bearing 270. Distance 4,000 kilometers. Unusual how? The gravity signature doesn't match any known celestial object. It's too regular, almost artificial." Day One didn't hesitate. He had survived 5 years in deep space by trusting his instincts and taking chances others wouldn't dare. "Plot a course. Full speed." The ship groaned as it changed direction, diving toward the strange reading. The corporate vessels followed, but they were slower, built for mining operations rather than pursuit. Day One's modified survey ship, the Pathbreaker, pulled ahead slightly. As they approached the coordinates, Day One saw nothing but empty space and a thick field of ancient debris. Rocks and metal fragments from long-dead asteroids floated in the darkness, creating a maze of obstacles. The gravity source is inside the debris field, Hana said. This is dangerous, Day One. The rocks are too dense. So are those mining ships, he shot back, steering into the field. The corporate vessels slowed down, hesitant to follow. Day One weaved between floating boulders, his hands steady on the controls. Years of experience guided him through gaps that seemed impossible. Then he saw it. At first, he thought it was just another asteroid, larger than the others. But as he got closer, he realized the surface was too smooth, too geometric. Patterns covered the hull, symbols and designs that definitely weren't natural. The structure was massive, easily 10 kilometers across, shaped like a pyramid with its point facing the stars. What is that? Day One whispered. Hana ran scans immediately. Unknown. The materials are not in my database. Age estimates suggest this structure is at least 50,000 years old. Possibly older, 50,000 years. The number made Day One's head spin. Humanity had only been exploring space for about 800 years. This thing was ancient beyond imagination. Any signs of life? Negative. But there are minimal power readings. Something is still functioning inside, running on extremely low energy. The corporate ships had stopped at the edge of the debris field. They were scanning the area, probably trying to figure out what Day One had found. He didn't have much time. Find me an entrance, he said. Hana directed him around the structure's surface. Up close, Day One could see more details. The symbols were everywhere, carved deep into the metal or stone or whatever material this was. Some looked like writing, others like mathematical equations. None of it made any sense to him. They found what looked like an airlock on the structure's lower section. It was sealed tight, a circular door about 4 meters across. Day One maneuvered his ship close and extended the docking tube, but it wouldn't connect properly. The ancient airlock was too different from modern designs. I'll have to cut my way in, Day One said, already putting on his spacesuit. The corporate vessels are moving, Hana warned. They're attempting to navigate the debris field. Estimated arrival, 20 minutes. Day One grabbed his plasma cutter and cycled through the airlock. He floated across the gap to the ancient door, magnetic boots clicking as he attached to the surface. The metal felt cold even through his gloves. He fired up the plasma cutter and began working on the door's edge. The beam cut through easily, which surprised him. For something so old, he expected it to be harder. Sparks flew into the void as he worked his way around the circular seal. 10 minutes later, the door section fell inward with a silent crash. Day One peered inside. A corridor stretched into darkness, but emergency lighting flickered to life as he entered. Dim blue strips along the walls that barely pushed back the shadows. I'm picking up atmosphere inside, Hana said through his suit radio. Breathable oxygen-nitrogen mix. The structure is maintaining life support after all this time. Day One moved forward carefully, his helmet light sweeping across the corridor. Everything was huge. The ceiling was at least 5 meters high and the doorways were built for creatures much larger than humans. He felt like a child walking through a giant's house. The corridor opened into a vast chamber. Day One stopped and stared. The room was easily the size of a football stadium, filled with rows of strange vessels. Ships, he realized. Ancient spacecraft lined up like soldiers on parade. Most had deteriorated badly, their hulls cracked and broken, but a few looked almost intact. Hana, are you seeing this? Recording everything. These ships predate all known civilizations. If we could study just one of them, the technological advances would be incredible. Day One walked between the rows, his boots echoing on the metal floor. Each ship was different, designed for different purposes he could only guess at. Some were sleek and fast-looking. Others were blocky and heavy, probably cargo haulers. All of them were built for beings much larger than humans. At the far end of the hangar, he found a pedestal with a crystal object resting on top. It was about the size of his fist, perfectly clear with tiny lights flickering deep inside. When he picked it up, the lights grew brighter, pulsing in patterns. Data storage, Hana said. That crystal contains information. Possibly terabytes worth. I need to analyze it properly. Day One carefully placed the crystal in his equipment bag. Then he noticed something on the wall behind the pedestal. A mural carved into the metal itself. It showed tall figures at least 3 meters high, with 4 arms and elongated heads. They stood before a great darkness that seemed to swallow stars. The builders, Day One said quietly. What were they running from? Unknown. But based on this mural, they were fleeing something catastrophic. His radio crackled. Pathbreaker, This is Stellar Mining Vessel Profit Seeker. We know you're in there. Come out immediately and surrender all findings. This is now corporate property under salvage law. Day One recognized the voice. Executive Timon, a man known for bending every rule to increase his bonuses. He looked around the ancient hangar at the ships that had waited 50,000 years in the darkness. No, he said softly, then louder into his radio. Negative, Profit Seeker. I made first contact. This site is protected under archaeological preservation protocols. Taemin's laugh was cold. We'll see about that. We're coming in. Daewon looked deeper into the fortress where more corridors led into unexplored darkness. Somewhere in there, power was still running. Somewhere in there, secrets waited that could change everything humanity knew about the universe. He started walking toward the inner doors. Behind him, he could hear the corporate ships docking. The race had just begun. The next week passed in a blur of activity. United Earth Science Council sent 3 research vessels, each packed with scientists, linguists, and engineers. They swarmed over the ancient fortress like excited children in a museum, carefully documenting everything they found. Daewon stayed on as a liaison, mainly because the Keeper seemed to trust him more than the others. The AI had been alone for so long that it was cautious about who it shared information with. Daewon couldn't blame it. Captain Wanshik's patrol ship remained nearby, just in case Stellar Mining Corporation tried anything. So far, Taemin had kept his distance, but Daewon knew the executive was plotting something. Men like him didn't give up on potential profits easily. On the 8th day, everything fell apart. Daewon was in the central chamber with the Keeper, discussing translation of the crystal archives, when alarms blared throughout the fortress. Red emergency lights replaced the calm blue ones. What's happening? Daewon asked. The Keeper's light pulsed rapidly, agitated. Multiple breaches detected. Armed personnel entering the fortress through forced entry points. They're using military-grade equipment. Taemin, Daewon growled. He's making his move. Captain Wanshik's voice crackled over the radio. All personnel, this is Guardian. We're detecting a corporate assault vessel in the area. They've launched boarding teams. Take defensive positions and await support. Daewon ran to the chamber entrance. Through the corridors, he could hear weapons fire and shouting. The scientists weren't fighters. They were being herded toward the central chamber by Taiman's security forces. A young woman in a research coat stumbled through the doorway, breathing hard. Daewon recognized her as Yu Jin, one of the junior scientists who had been cataloging the data crystals. She looked terrified. They're coming, she gasped. They have at least 20 armed guards. They're forcing everyone to the center. More scientists arrived, pushed along by armed men in black combat armor. These weren't the same guards from before. These were professional mercenaries, the kind corporations hired for operations they didn't want traced back to them. Taemin entered last, now wearing full tactical armor and carrying a weapon himself. He'd clearly decided that if he was going to break the law, he might as well go all in. Seal the entrances, he ordered his men. No one in or out until we're done here. Heavy blast doors slammed shut, cutting off the main corridors. Daewon heard similar sounds throughout the fortress. Taemin had planned this carefully. You can't do this, Captain Wanshik's voice said over the radio. You're committing multiple felonies. Stand down immediately. Taemin pulled out the radio and crushed it under his boot. No more negotiations. Guardian, if you're monitoring this, know that we have explosives placed throughout this facility. Powerful ones. If you try to breach, we'll trigger them and destroy everything. Back off, and maybe I'll let the hostages go once I have what I came for. He turned to the Keeper. You AI, I'm done playing nice. You're going to transfer all your data to my storage systems, or I start killing hostages. Starting with this one. He grabbed Yu Jin by the arm and pressed his weapon to her head. The young woman whimpered, tears streaming down her face. The other scientists backed away, terrified. Daewon stepped forward. Let her go. She's not part of this. Everyone's part of this, Taemin snapped. I offered to do this legally. I offered to share profits. But no, you had to be a hero, so now we do it the hard way. The Keeper's voice remained calm, but Daewon could hear anger underneath. Release the human female. Your quarrel is with me. My quarrel is with anyone who stands between me and profit. Now, are you going to cooperate? I cannot allow architect knowledge to fall into hands that would misuse it. The answer is no. Taemin's finger tightened on the trigger. Yu Jin closed her eyes, sobbing. Daewon's mind raced, searching for anything he could do, any way to stop this. Then Yujin did something unexpected. She stomped hard on Taemin's foot and twisted away from his grip. The weapon fired, but the shot went wide, hitting the wall. She scrambled toward the other scientists as Taemin cursed. "Restrain her," he shouted. 2 guards grabbed Yujin, but she fought them, surprising everyone with her ferocity. "I won't let you do this," she screamed. "This knowledge isn't yours. It belongs to everyone." Taemin backhanded her across the face. She fell, blood running from her split lip. The brutality shocked the other scientists into silence. "Anyone else want to be a hero?" Taemin asked quietly. No one moved. "Good. Now, AI, you have 1 minute to comply or I start executing people. Your choice." The Keeper's light dimmed. "If I give you the data, you will kill them anyway. I have analyzed your psychological profile. You leave no witnesses. Smart machine. But you'll give me the data because there's a chance I might let them live. It's better odds than they have right now." Daewon caught the Keeper's attention. He couldn't speak without Taemin hearing, but he tried to communicate with his eyes. "Trust me," he thought. "I have an idea. The Keeper must have sensed something through its sensors. Very well. Begin your data transfer, but it will take time. My archives are vast." "We have time," Taemin said, gesturing to his technical team. "Set it up." As the mercenaries assembled their equipment, Daewon slowly moved toward one of the wall panels. He'd spent the last week studying the fortress systems with the Keeper. He knew things about this place that Taemin didn't. The fortress wasn't just a vault. It was also designed to defend itself. The Keeper had shown him the security systems, explained how they worked. Most required the AI's direct control to activate, but some could be triggered manually in emergencies. Daewon found the panel he was looking for and pretended to lean against the wall casually. His fingers found the hidden catch and pressed. Nothing happened immediately, but he felt a slight vibration through the floor. The Keeper noticed. Its light pulsed in what might have been approval. "Data transfer beginning," one of the technical mercenaries announced. "Estimated completion, 40 minutes. Taemin nodded. "Good, watch the hostages. If anyone tries anything, shoot them in the leg. I want them alive but cooperative." Yujin, still on the floor, looked at Daewon. She was smart, he could see her working it out. He'd activated something. She gave the tiniest nod and started coughing, drawing attention to herself. "Water," she croaked. "Please, I need water." One of the guards kicked her lightly. "Shut up. She's injured," another scientist protested. "At least let us treat her." While they argued, Daewon activated 2 more hidden controls. The vibrations grew stronger. Around the chamber, the other scientists began to notice something was happening. The Keeper helped, creating distractions by adjusting the lighting and playing strange sounds through the fortress's ancient speakers. The mercenaries grew nervous, looking around for threats. "What's it doing?" Taemin demanded. "Stop that." "The fortress has automated systems," the Keeper said innocently. "They activate independently. I cannot control everything." That was a lie, but Taemin didn't know enough about the technology to dispute it. He ordered his team to work faster. Daewon reached the final control and pressed it. This time the response was immediate. Gravity in the chamber fluctuated wildly. Everyone not magnetic locked to the floor lifted slightly into the air. The mercenaries panicked, trying to anchor themselves. In the confusion, several scientists broke free and scattered. Yujin grabbed a fallen weapon and threw it toward Daewon. He caught it and aimed at Taemin. "It's over. Call off your people." Taemin laughed even as he floated a meter off the ground. "You think you've won? I still have explosives placed throughout this facility. If I don't check in every 10 minutes, they detonate automatically." "Bluff," Daewon said. "Try me." The Keeper's voice cut through the tension. "He is not bluffing. I detect the explosives. They are substantial. If detonated, they will breach my containment and likely destroy this entire section of the fortress." Daewon's stomach dropped. "How long until the next check-in?" Taemin looked at his wrist display. 3 minutes. And counting. "So what's it going to be? Let me go with the data or we all die together." The gravity stabilized suddenly. Everyone dropped back to the floor with varying degrees of grace. Taemin scrambled to his feet, weapon ready. 2 minutes, he said. "Decide." Daewon looked at the Keeper, then at the hostages, then back at Taemin. There had to be a way out of this. There had to be something he was missing. Yujin spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. "Don't let him win. If he gets that data, he'll sell it to weapons manufacturers. Millions will die. Better we die here than cause that. Shut up. Taemin screamed. 1 minute, the keeper said softly. Daewon made his choice.